Hello everyone and welcome to WhiskyWars. Today I'm going to be showing you guys something a little bit different today. I recently made it a priority for me to drink and finish all my samples. Now these aren't actually all of them, I did throw some of them away, but these are a lot of them. And really I'm just going to very quickly review these samples just to let you guys know which ones I'm thinking of buying a full bottle of in the future and which ones I wouldn't, because they weren't that impressive in the samples. Now one thing that I do want to stress before this video starts is these are samples of whiskey. As you know, if you buy a bottle of whiskey, your first impressions, and then as the whiskey oxidizes over time, as you progress through the bottle, your impressions of that whiskey can change. And a lot of different factors can affect your impressions of that whiskey. And another day, in another scenario, in another season, it could taste a little bit different to you, but generally you're getting a very good impression of a whiskey from a sample. So starting off with the Smokeheads, here we have the high voltage, which was a cask strength bottled at 58%. We have the Rum Rebel bottled at 46%, and we have the original bottled at 43%. Now, Smokehead have changed their 43% and dropped it to a 40% now. If I'm being honest, I think the worst of the three, which might surprise you, was the cask strength. I thought it was a really poor whiskey. I definitely will not be looking for that one in the future. But I really enjoyed the Rum Rebel. So actually I recently went out and bought the Rum Riot, which is rum cask, non-age stated Smokehead, but bottled at 43% instead of the 46%. And actually what I found is those two whiskies were really quite different from one another, and I didn't enjoy the Riot as much as I enjoyed the Rebel. So that's something to note, and I did record a whiskey war of those two for you guys, that may have been posted or will be coming soon, so do check that one out if that interests you, because they were very different. But I think the standard at 43% is now 40%. There could be a drop off in flavour, but based on that 43% one, that one was very good and does retail for around £25 in the UK, so a very affordable price. Then we move on to the Glenmorangies. Now these were very nice because they were 100ml bottles, so I really could drink them over time. So I got a little bit of a better impression on these four. We have the La Santa, which is sherry cask, the Kinta Reuben, and the La Santa's 12 years. The Kinta Reuben is 14 years, finished in port casks, bottled at 46%, the La Santa's 43%. Then we have the Nectar d'Or, which is Sauternes cask at 46%. Followed by the standard 10 year, which is just ex-bourbon cask, bottled at 40%. The original, which is the 10 year, didn't blow me away. I have owned a bottle of it in the past. I won't be purchasing a bottle of that in the future. The La Santa or the Kinta Reuben, for me, I think if I was to buy a bottle again, it would be either or. I'd just pick one of them. And I've actually reviewed those two together on the channel, and that one has just been posted, so do check that video out if you're interested in what my favourite is, because that's the one I'd buy again. And the Nectar d'Or, I actually really enjoyed it. It was just a little bit thin for me, and it is quite expensive, so based on that I wouldn't buy that one again, but I did really enjoy it. Then we go to the Lost Company, which for me really intrigued me. It really interests me. I love the history behind what they're trying to do. So this company, they try and recreate lost whiskies, which is why it's called the Lost Distillery. So whiskies that were in production 100, 200 years ago but are now out of production, they try to recreate those whiskey profiles and bottle them. Have to be honest, my favourite was probably the Campbelltown, the Delarue, although I wouldn't actually look to pick up a bottle of any of them in the future. For me, they all had this similar Kelpol taste in the background on all of them, and I wasn't too keen on that. Then we have the Taliskers. We have the 10 year, which I have a bottle of, and I've reviewed that a few times on the channel. But we have the Skye and the Storm, which are two NAS, non-age stated Taliskers. I'll quickly tell you the percentages. So the 10 years bottled at 45.8%, and the Skye and the Storm are also 45.8%. Now the Skye and the Storm I have reviewed against each other in a little war a few years ago, so it's a really old video. And to be honest, I enjoyed them, but I wasn't blown away by them. Would I buy them again? I actually would, if they were around the £25 mark, which I have seen them on offer around that price, but I would not pay retail price for these whiskies. Okay, then we've got the Isle of Skye 8-year-old, which is a budget blended scotch from the Isle of Skye, which is the same region as Talisker, and it's rumoured to have Talisker in this whisky, as well as some other whiskies that are actually outside of the Isle of Skye. It's 8 years of age, and I've seen this recently at £16 in the UK, so very, very, very affordable. One of the cheapest bottles you can buy, and I was impressed with it. So for me, I would actually look to buy a bottle of that in the future. Then we have the Glenfarclas 12-year. That was enjoyable, and I recently reviewed that against the La Santa Glenmorangie, because that's 12 years in sherry cask. Glendronach, 12 years sherry cask, and the Arbor 12-year, which is also sherry cask. I found that a really interesting review to film because they're 4 12-year-old sherry cask Speyside whiskies. So if you want to check that out, a full review of that is on the channel, or will be coming very soon. I wouldn't buy the Glenfarclas again, really. Of course, if I had a lot of money, I would buy most of them again, but I don't, so I've got to be selective, and I wouldn't buy that one again. Then we have 3 Glenfiddiches. We have the 12-year, the 15-year, and the 18-year. For me, the 12-year was a bit of a miss. I know a lot of people like it. For me, though, I don't see myself spending the money on a bottle of that 12-year in the future. The 15-year, though, was probably my most impressive one. I really enjoyed that one, and I have seen it around the £35 to £40 mark. So for me, I would buy that at that price in the future. That will be one I pick up. Then we have the Compass boxes. There's only 2 here, but there was 3 that I got my hands on. We have the Spaniard, which is a sherry cask scotch. These are blends. The Peat Monster and the Spice Tree. Now, I've reviewed these on the channel. My favourite was the Spice Tree. Out of the 3 of them, that's the one that I would look to buy again. I was really impressed with that whisky. I thought it was very, very good. Haven't had it for quite some time, but I will be picking up a bottle of that in the future. Then we had 3 Teelings. I've only got 1 here, but this was my favourite one, so this is the one I'll talk about. This is the one that I will buy again in the future, actually. This was the single malt. Now, I believe there was 5 different cask finishes in there, including white wine, Sauternes to cask. I was really impressed with that one. The other 2 were the single grain, which I can take it or leave it. It's okay. It's not bad. But I think if I was to buy another one, it would be the single malt over that single grain. And then finally, it was the Teeling small batch, which I do own a bottle of, and I found that the worst of the 3. In fact, it's a rum finished Teeling. For me, I really don't like that whiskey. It's not one that I would ever buy again. That's one of the few firm no's, along with the Smokehead cask strength for me. Really don't like it. In fact, I'm stuck with that bottle. I don't drink it. Then we have a Swedish one, which was the Svensk Ek, probably butchered the name, by Macmara. This one, it's apparently spicy, notes of sandalwood, ginger, pepper and oak. Wasn't blown away by it. It has been a few years since I had that one though, but I don't think I'll be looking to buy a bottle of that in the future. I do need to pick up some more world whiskies in the future, but right now there's just so much Scotch, Irish, but also bourbon, and I really want to buy some more bourbon. I'm in that phase right now, so world whiskies will have to wait. Then we have the Isle of Raasay. Now this is a new distillery, and this one was bottled at 46.4%, and it had a combination of 6 different casks in it. So I can imagine it's very, very young. The bottle design of it is amazing though. The full bottle of this, it's a beautiful bottle. And so this is an island Scotch whisky, and it has a combination of peated and unpeated, and then there was a cask finish called like a Chinkapin, is it? Chinkapin. It was just interesting. There was a rye whiskey cask, a Bordeaux cask. It was a good whiskey. I would look to buy that again, but not at the price that it retails for. For me, that's just too much money. So in the future, as they start to release more and more whiskies, hopefully that price comes down, and then I can look to pick up a bottle of them. It was tasty though. Then we had 3 writers' tiers. We had the cask strength, which was bottled at 53%. That was my favourite of the 3. I really enjoyed that whiskey. I thought it was phenomenal. But I won't buy it again because of the price. I think it's about £130 in the UK. Just way too much money for me. I can't pay that sort of money on a whiskey, but it was good. Then we have the copper pot bottled at 40%, which was pretty forgettable, to be honest. And the double oak at 46%, which was pleasant. I could see myself picking up a writer's tiers in the future, but it's not top of the list right now. Staying in Ireland, we have the Napoke Castle 12-year, 14-year and 16-year. These were more sherry forward, especially the 14 and the 16-year. Really enjoyed them. The standout for me though was that 12-year. I did want to pick up a bottle of that in the future. Recently, I think it's had a bit of a price hike though, which has kind of put me off a little bit. But nonetheless, a great whiskey, and the 12-year would be the one I buy in the future. Then we have, it was a sample pack of 5 different Ian McLeods. I think it's Ian McLeod, that's how you pronounce his name, I could be wrong. These were 40% bottlings, blended scotches of different regions. So we have a Highland region, a Lowland region, an Island region, an Islay region, and for me, there were a couple of really enjoyable ones. These whiskies were blended scotches, and for each region they were inoffensive. So even the Islay wasn't a strong and intense and pungent Islay, but they were all good in their own right. All seemed to be more on the sweet side. None really had a wood spice or any sort of intensity or veering off in a certain direction. They're all middle of the road whiskies. They were enjoyable. My issue with these whiskies is probably the price point for the full bottles. They're around that £35–40 mark, I think, and for me a little bit too expensive. If they dropped in price though, I would be picking them up because they were quite enjoyable. Then we have the famous Grouse. Obviously a bottom shelf budget scotch. I quite enjoyed it actually. I did quite enjoy it. I think though, the Isle of Skye 8-year for the same price, more my cup of tea. I'd probably go for that one in the future over the famous Grouse. And then we have the Benriach, the Smoky 12-year. This was a good whiskey. I enjoyed this whiskey. I own a full bottle of the Smoky 10-year. And the 12-year was good. It was more sweet, more sherried than the 10-year. I've reviewed those two as a war on the channel if you're interested. Would I buy a bottle of it again? Perhaps, yeah. I enjoyed it, and I have seen them do go on offers. I think they retail for around that £45 mark, but I have seen them drop to the low 30s. And if I see that again, and I have a bit of spare change, I'll definitely look to pick that one up. And finally, 3 Auchentoshans. Now, one of them is the 3-wood. That's my favourite of the 3. I think it's really good, and I did own a bottle of this before I started my channel, so I never fully reviewed that whiskey, it does annoy me a little bit because it is a good one. The American Oak and the 12-year are fairly forgettable. They're not that impressive. However, I'd say ignore the American Oak. The 12-year goes on sale roughly around the price of the American Oak, and I've seen it for around that £25 mark. I wouldn't be against buying it at that price, but certainly not for retail. The 3-wood though, that's the one I will be picking up in the future. Let me just finish off a little bit more valuable for you guys and maybe pick my top 5 of all of them. So maybe that's a little bit more of a take home for you guys. that I will look to purchase in the future. So the 3 wood is there, very, very good. The Glenfiddich 15, I was very impressed with that, and a very cheap price as well, which is always good. The Teeling single malt, really enjoyed it. I will be picking that one up as well. I think you've got to get a budget one in there. I'm going to go for the Isle of Skye 8-year-old. The Smokehead 43% just misses out because that one was very good. And I would have picked the Rum Rebel, but I've recently bought the Rum Riot. That one didn't impress me. This one was better, but I've kind of been put off Smokehead a little bit with that purchase. And I don't have it here, but let's just pretend one of these is the Spice Tree. So the Compass Box Spice Tree. This concludes my samples. I don't know if these are in shot actually. I'll move this back for you guys and make sure it doesn't fall off. I think that's in shot now. Sorry about that. It's hard to see what's in shot because I'm seeing the back of the phone. So my top 5 of all of these samples, and 5 bottles that I will look to buy again in the future once I can afford to do so. It will be the Compass Box Spice Tree. This is the Spaniard, but let's just pretend it's the Spice Tree. The Isle of Skye 8-year-old for the budget option. The Auchentoshan 3 wood. I do need to buy more lowland whiskies. That's something I am trying to work on. The Glenfiddich 15, because you always need a sherry bomb, and I think it's great for a great price. And then finally an Irish, and I'm going to go with the Teeling single malt. The 5 different cask finishes made it really interesting for me. Okay, let's put these back. So guys, something a little bit different for you guys to see today. Different sort of review. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like on the video and don't forget to click that subscribe button. Really trying to hit 1,000 subscribers soon, so all the help on that is really, really appreciated, so thank you. And then if you want to help out a little bit more, I have recently started a Patreon page. You will have seen the announcement video on my YouTube channel about that already. If you're interested, the link is in my about section of the YouTube page, I think, so that's there as an option as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all for the next Whiskey War.